What's up, Taiwan? I'm Sanichi with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. President Lai Ching-te has kicked off a series of speeches around Taiwan aimed at uniting the country. Isabel Wong reports on his first stop in New Taipei.
President Lai Ching-te greets an audience in New Taipei. He's here to give the first in a series of 10 speeches with the theme of uniting the country. It comes as Taiwan's partisan divide continues to grow. The theme of this speech, nation. In his remarks, Lai reiterated Taiwan's sovereignty, emphasizing that the People's Republic of China has never ruled the island country.
中华民国台湾，台湾都是我们的名字啦，都是我们国家的名字啦，都一样响亮啦。无论用哪一个民族称呼我们，我们都是独立自主的国家啦。有近80%民众认同中华民国与中华人民共和国互不隶属。 台湾的未来由全体2300万人决定。
In the face of growing aggression from China and other pressing challenges, Lai said it is important for Taiwan's people and political parties to band together. But the opposition has questioned the timing and purpose of Lai's speaking tour, which was announced just one day after election authorities greenlit recall votes against 24 Kuomintang lawmakers. Those are set to take place on July 26.
我不知道总统的目的到底是为了团结台湾，还是为了团结他个人的权利啊？只为一人之私、一党之私，就要想消灭在野党。
The chair of the smaller Taiwan People's Party also criticized Lai's unity speeches, saying they are aimed at fueling political divisions.
为了促进台湾社会的和谐，我非常乐于跟赖总统 针对人民关心的10件大事公开对谈。
The presidential office says Lai's other 9 speeches will cover topics ranging from diplomacy, national defense, and cross-strait relations to democracy, peace, and prosperity. But with the mass lawmaker recall movement unfolding in the background, bringing the country together will not be an easy task. Scott Huang and Isabel Wong for TaiwanPlus.
The world is on edge as Iran and Israel continue to trade strikes after U.S. attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities. There's been condemnation in cities across the globe as leaders struggle to find a path forward. Chris Gorin reports.
In Tel Aviv, air raid sirens signal another night of missile attacks from Iran. The constant exchange of missiles between the two sides has intensified since the U.S. sent B-2 bombers to strike 3 facilities in Iran. Washington says we're being used to develop nuclear weapons. Protests condemning the U.S. strikes were held around the world, from Pakistan to New York City, Paris, and Iran's capital itself, Tehran, where Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian joined those in the streets expressing their anger.
America and Israel are countries that have been committing crimes for 100 years. We must respond to them in a way that will make Israel disappear. And 7 generations later, Americans will remember our response.
Asian markets were down slightly on Monday amid uncertainty about how the conflict could impact oil prices. While many wonder what's next, the U.S. is sending mixed messages.
No, Kristen, we're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program. And
though the vice president says the U.S. is not at war with Iran, on social media, U.S. President Donald Trump left open the question of U.S.-backed regime change in the country. In an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council, Israel defended the U.S. and its own attacks on Iran.
Make no mistake, the cost of inaction would have been catastrophic. A nuclear Iran would have been a death sentence just as much for you as it would have been for us.
Iranian security officials called the strikes crimes that require a response.
Each time they committed a crime, they received a decisive response, and this time will be no different.
Leaders around the world continue to call for a diplomatic solution. But with both attacks and rhetoric growing in intensity, diplomacy may be even harder to reach. Delphine Chen and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan stocks dropped sharply on Monday following the U.S. strikes on Iran. Taiwan's benchmark index, the TAIEX, opened down 2%, plunging over 400 points before recovering somewhat. Meanwhile, oil prices across Asia surged, hitting 5-month highs. The new Taiwan dollar also dropped in value on Monday. The government says it's closely monitoring the situation and will work to keep prices stable. On the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Okinawa in 1945, Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba pledged to reduce the burden of U.S. military bases on the island. Ishiba was speaking at a ceremony commemorating the bloody World War II battle. Okinawa has hosted U.S. military bases since the end of the war, billeting over 30,000 service members. Ishiba paid tribute to the 200,000 people who died in the battle. They included students and children forced into service by the Japanese Empire. The fighting on Okinawa was one of the bloodiest and most studied battles of the Pacific War. But 80 years after the guns fell silent, some mysteries remain. Brent Thomas reports on how Taiwan's role in the battle is still shrouded in the fog of war.
On June 22, 1945, the last major battle of World War II ended after nearly 3 months of fierce attritional fighting.
The bloodiest battle of the Pacific War has ended in victory for the Americans on Okinawa. 330 miles from the home islands of Japan, the Stars and Stripes are hoisted on this most vital strategic base.
It's just a classic example of a kind of a violent climax to just this catastrophic event that had swept through Asia and the Pacific. It gives us a little bit of a preview of what the invasion of the Japanese home islands would have been like.
Okinawa, strategic link in the Ryukyu chain, an island strong point in the southern defense system guarding the Japanese mainland.
太平洋战争里面最惨烈的算是日本本土的决战，就是冲绳战役。1945年3月打到6月的3个月左右的这个冲绳战役是非常惨烈的。那当年被称作叫做钢铁风暴，因为美军是用大量的炮弹，几乎把整个那个冲绳夷平。
The battle involved around 1.3 million Allied personnel, U.S. Army, Navy, Marine, and Air Force units, against 120,000 Imperial Japanese defenders. It was the last major battle of the Pacific War, and the first with significant involvement of Taiwanese soldiers in combat, following the start of conscription in Taiwan in January 1945.
Over 200,000 Taiwanese actually served in the Imperial Japanese Army in a wide sense during the war years. Not all of them were in active military service. I think that's more like about 80,000 or so, but others did work that essentially served the wider purpose of the Imperial Japanese Army.
Daily militarization of Taiwanese young men until 1938, when a law is passed that Taiwanese can be volunteer soldiers or volunteer gunzoku, kind of laborers or attached to the military. And then the actual formal draft of Taiwanese men doesn't begin until much later in the war.
The Battle of Okinawa cost the Americans nearly 13,000 lives, about 7% of our frontline troops. Japanese losses were far greater, with over 110,000 killed, almost total annihilation. Among the dead were many Taiwanese conscripts pulled into Japan's war in the final month, but no one knows how many served or how many never came home. Today, a single monument on Okinawa lists just 34 Taiwanese names. Most experts agree the true number is far higher and still hidden in the fog of war. James Lin, Ed Moon, Jeffrey Chen, and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
Tune in tomorrow for part 2 of our series on Taiwan's role in the Battle of Okinawa, or check out the full video on YouTube or our website. A senior ruling party lawmaker has been indicted on charges of fraudulently claiming assistants' salaries, totaling almost $500,000. Democratic Progressive Party legislator Tai-hua and 9 other individuals were indicted in this case. Ling says she is innocent and has pledged full cooperation with the judicial process. She is considered a leading contender in the DPP's primary for next year's Kaohsiung mayoral race. A new drug for early-stage Alzheimer's disease has been administered in Taiwan for the first time. The drug is called Kisunla and was developed by a U.S. pharmaceutical company aimed at treating the cause of Alzheimer's rather than just the symptoms. It was used on an 83-year-old female patient in New Taipei. Kisunla was approved by the government earlier this year. There are around 350,000 people living with dementia in Taiwan. An estimated 2/3 of them have Alzheimer's disease. Visitors to a Taipei Art Museum are invited to embark on an unpredictable journey to understand their relationship with nature through the works of an Icelandic-Danish artist. Walking through a curtain of mist, with bands of colorful light shimmering around. This is one of the works featured in the exhibition, Your Curious Journey, by Icelandic-Danish artist Olafur Eliasson, who is exhibiting in Asia for the first time, with Taipei being his third stop on the tour. His installations invite visitors on an unpredictable journey of instability.
Because art is an opportunity to question yourself, question your view, question your journey, question the traditional way of doing things and open up for new ways of doing things. Art is unstable, right? Art is a surprise.
Eliasson is known for unconventional works that blur the lines between art, nature, and science. He harnesses natural elements like light, fog, and water to evoke emotional responses from viewers, hoping to help people rethink their relationship with nature. Among his artworks on display in Taipei, his sun drawing and wind writing series, created in the desert in 2023.
This is the wind machine, so this is very windy. And you can see over here, this is the black and the white. This is the desert speaking, the sun and the wind and everything speaking to us.
However, after decades of working with these natural materials, Eliasson says there's one in particular he favors.
I think my favorite material is maybe time. The time it takes for you to look at something, the journey.
This material is strongly reflected in the Glacier Melt series, which the artist worked on in 1999 and 2019 in Iceland. Many visitors were impressed with Eliasson's works on the first day of the exhibition.
有一件是在喷水的那个装置，就我觉得远远看它在，因为它就是在一个完全黑暗的空间里面，然后它用灯光的控制去让那个水流好像有一个暂留的作用，所以它在灯光下的时候会感觉有点像一件静止的雕塑，可是你又同时可以听到水流的声音，所以可以感受到那种就是一个能量在那个空间里面吧。
Some who have already seen the artist's exhibits before have come again.
他的作品有一个很特别的地方，是他跟空间当下还有你观者本人的身体都有关系。所以当他的作品移到不同的空间，以及来到台湾的时候，其实他被观看的方式应该也是不一样的。所以虽然我在伦敦已经看过这个展览了，但是我知道他来台湾之后，我还是很期待他能在北美馆有怎样的呈现。所以这是我会想要来看的原因。
Eliasson's work will be on display at the museum through the end of September, before moving on to its next stop in Indonesia. While it's here, Eliasson hopes Taipei visitors can stay curious and travel with him on this unpredictable journey. Andy Xue, Simonetta Ho, and Sanny Chi for TaiwanPlus. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take a look at how people in Germany are trying to stay cool as a heat wave hits the country. I'm Sanny Chi, take care and see you next time.